the 100th week of the Dr. Boyce Book Club. All right, so let me look in the chat and see who's here. Shout out your city. Cavu to you, Dr. Boyce, B1, Anthony Cobbler. What does Cavu mean? Cavu. I don't know what that means. Gastonia, Karen. Good to see you, Karen from Gastonia, and Rodney from San Francisco, Nigel from Orlando. Let's see, I see you all in the chat. Let's see, Angela from Shreveport, Louisiana. I went to Shreveport. I remember I like Shreveport. Veronica from LA. Yep, we were just in LA. We were touring for my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, in LA, and it was a lot of fun. We just came from Houston, actually. Hey, Dorothy from Oakland, Lisa from Chicago, Deron from Maryland. I see T Branch from Chicago. Who else? Anita from St. Louis. Joseph, B1 on code from Tampa. Yeah, speaking of B1, I am super, super excited to announce that B1 the movie is nearly done. B1 the movie is a film that we have been working on for probably 2.5 years, because we don't just talk about it, we are about it. And I've mentioned to you all that that Black people have to have our own film industry, and so we put some money into a movie. We got some stars, some people that you love and recognize from our community. Everybody from Riza Islam to Vicky Dillard and myself, and just a lot of really interesting people, Nuri Muhammad, etc. And we made a film. Jay Morrison's in it. Just everybody's in it. And it's really good. And Speech from Arrested Development does really good stuff. He made a documentary that everybody should watch called The Nigga Factory. And in this documentary, he explains the mass production of self-destructive Black people. He explains the way that Black people have been wired and trained to hate one another, etc. And so at some point, we're going to do a screening and a premiere. I'm going to try to see if I can get the director, Rick Mathis, to want to do a Black movie night or something like that. I know it's going to be a big part of the All Black National Convention, which happens in Atlanta in late October. I think the dates, I got to get the exact dates. I want to say October 20th or something like that, but don't hold me to that. I know it's going to be at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. We just nailed that down. And I should have the dates. We keep the dates flexible so we can negotiate with the hotels and all that. And it's something that we do for the community. And we probably put about $200,000 a year into this convention every year because we want it to be good. We want it to be first class. We really want you guys to have a good time. We want you to connect and network. And it's very, very powerful. So if you haven't been to the convention, then you got to go. And this year we'll probably sell out because we limit the number of seats. So if you want to bring your family, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com, and you can get a chance to come to the convention. If you want to see one of the trailers for the film, I cut out a little piece of the film. I put it on my Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. So if you're not following me on Instagram, just go look for The Real Boyce Watkins, and you can watch that first piece of the film. And it just covers so many great things about the B1 movement, what it means to be Black first. We talk about the 10 Commandments of Black economic power. We talk about Black family and why there is such a huge anti-Black family movement from both the men and from some women. Toxic energy being dumped on the community that's destructive to families. We talk about what's going on in our communities in terms of politics, all these things. It's a brilliant film, beautiful film. So shout out to Rick Mathis, the director. That's also a partnership with Rick Mathis's company and also Boyce Watkins Films. And we got it done, y'all. We're getting this movie finished, and it's going to be massive. We're going to make sure we've been stacking up our paper, making sure that we are prepared to market this thing so that it's seen by millions and millions of people. So this will be a blackbuster film, not blockbuster, but a blackbuster film, meaning a film created for the Black community, by the Black community. So this is not, this is not some buffoonery that we're just sending out to Hollywood. We're not trying to impress anybody but Black people, and it's made for intelligent Black people. And that's not people who went to school. It's for people who value intelligence. All right, so feel free to go to my Instagram if you want to see the trailer, and we'd love your participation. All right, so let me start here. We're reading Powernomics. We've been reading this book for probably a year now, and we're on page 197. And we're going to jump into political action steps that Dr. Anderson recommends. But one thing I want to start off the conversation talking about is, did anybody see this whole situation with this guy? His name is Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran, and he's a white boy that can sing his butt off, and he's kind of got that Elvis Presley vibe. And Ed Sheeran right now is being sued by the family of the people that wrote the Marvin Gaye song "Let's Get It On," and they're basically saying that you stole all of that. They're saying that this ain't yours. You took this. It's not the Marvin Gaye family. It's the family, the estate of the family, or the guy who wrote the song, not Marvin Gaye. And here's what it says. And I'm bringing this up as a good starting point because Dr. Anderson writes in Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth about how much is stolen from Black people, starting with our music. Our music is regularly stolen on a regular basis. I listened to his song. His song was called Thinking Out Loud. And I was listening to the, the background vocal, the chorus and everything. And I said, yeah, I could just hear at any point Marvin Gaye jumping in and saying, let's get it on. Because it had the same kind of vibe, in my opinion. It sounded a lot like that song. I mean, it's very similar. And so here's what the suit says, and I'm going to make my point here about this because I think this is a great jump-off point for us to read about Powernomics and how so many things get taken from you, but you have to fight to defend what is going to be taken. You can't just assume people are going to do the right thing. You can assume that your excellence will be emulated at some point. You have to protect that. So it says here, Ed Sheeran was in Manhattan federal court this week for a copyright infringement trial involving his 2014 hit, Thinking Out Loud. The heirs of the late Ed Townsend, who co-wrote Marvin Gaye's hit Let's Get It On, say Sheeran's song copies the 1973 classic. The trial is expected to last up to 2 weeks and will be decided by a jury. So they said that he was in court last week to defend his claims that his song was his song. Let me scroll forward. Townsend's daughter, Kathryn Townsend Griffin, sister Helen McDonald, and the estate of his former wife, Cherrigale Townsend, are listed as plaintiffs in the case. Gaye died in 1984. Townsend died in 2003. Sheeran, who's 32, took the stand Tuesday during opening arguments in federal court in Manhattan. The trial is expected to last up to 2 weeks. The defense, which did not cross-examine Sheeran, said he'll be back on the stand once more during the trial. The smoking gun. Townsend's estate alleges that Sheeran, Warner Music Group, and Sony Music Publishing borrowed from the soul classic Let's Get It On in the creation of Thinking Out Loud, violating federal copyright law. The defendants copied the heart of Let's and repeated it continuously throughout thinking. Attorneys for the Townsend heirs wrote in their complaint, the melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic compositions and thinking are not the product of independent creation. To make the plaintiff's argument, Crump pointed, Benjamin Crump, by the way, attorney Benjamin Crump's on the case. Think what you want about Crump, but he's a lawyer that knows how to get his money. That, criticize or love him or hate him, that man knows how to make money. So Benjamin Crump pointed to a 2014 stage performance in which Sheeran sang a live mashup of the two songs. So he mixed the two songs together on stage. Crump told the jurors, captured on video, amounted to a confession. So he says the smoking gun is that Sheeran himself admitted that the songs were very similar. Crump added that Sheeran recognized the magic of Gaye's song and claimed that he had decided to capture a bit of that magic for his own benefit. Is it Sheeran? Okay, it's Ed Sheeran. Is it Sheeran or Sheeran? I just call him Baby Elvis. That's what we go. That's our nickname for Ed Sheeran. She ran yesterday. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna call him Baby Elvis. How's that? Is that okay? I'm gonna give him a nickname. Let's call him Baby Elvis. And the reason I call him Baby Elvis is not because I'm trying to be a hater. I call him Baby Elvis, and I'm not calling him Baby Elvis because he ain't got talent. I heard his song. He got 3.5 billion views. Good for him. I call him Baby Elvis because, give me a yes or no if you understand what I'm saying. There are so many examples where do you think it's not inconceivable that a music group said, you know what, this song did really well when a Black guy wrote it, but the problem is we got two problems that when the Black guy wrote it. He, number one, he's Black, and number two, he's dead. So he's Black and he's dead, and he died in many years ago. So nobody's gonna remember him anyway. So let's go back, and do you think it's inconceivable that they went and said, let's dig up the grave of Marvin Gaye, and let's just go find this song that a lot of people know about, but they're not going to make the connection, and we're going to introduce this to a whole new audience. What do you think are the odds that this probably occurred? Oh, and by the way, we're going to make about $50-100 million doing it. Do you think that that's possible? And you think it's like, am I crazy? Am I just out of my mind by making that up? Do you think that there's some slither of a chance that the executives who run these music labels, who are always looking to capture that Black boy, Black girl, Black man, Black woman magic, and then transfer it to a white audience, do you think that there's a chance that they go back and they take stuff that we do and then say, let a white person do it, and then it's going to be a bigger hit? The same thing happened with Eminem. right? Eminem's a great rapper, by the way. He's a talented rapper. But Eminem, God bless him, he gives credit to the black community for being the originators of his art form. He gives credit, so he deserves to be respected for that. You can look at other examples, right? What Elvis Presley. There was a guy, I forgot his name. I put the video up on my Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. There was a guy who sang ballads right before, like right around the time of Elvis. And one of the guys who worked with Elvis said he heard the guy's voice, and the guy sang like Elvis. He had that deep voice, that deep thing, and he was singing the ballads a certain way. And Elvis literally listened to that, and he tried it himself. He said, he said, yeah, I'm going to add that to my song. And next thing you know, he's doing it, but he's doing it for a white audience, which makes it a blockbuster hit, right? And so I'm not saying that that's always a bad thing. I'm not. I don't know. I mean, you imitate the things that are beneficial. You imitate the things that are actually working. But I think I don't think it's out of the question. I think also, if you listen to a lot of, I don't know if it's Sheeran. Where's Sheeran from? Is he from the United States or is he from another country? Let me see here. Let me Google search. Google knows everything. All right. So where is Ed Sheeran from? Here we go. Ed Sheeran is from, that's what I thought. He's from the UK. Does anybody know where most of the greatest artists from the UK get their musical influence? Anybody know that? Anybody know where the Beatles, when they asked the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, like where did you, what inspired you, what really got you into music? Does anybody know what they usually say? Oh, they say black people. They start talking about black people. And then they'll start even talking about black people who are sitting in the United States making no money from their music. They talk about black people who are no longer even famous anymore because people have kind of moved on to something bigger and different and better, or they think that's better. So they always say black people. So I think this is an interesting lawsuit. I like the fact that they filed it because I think you can get to the bottom of it. I think that it is not inconceivable that the record label said, hey, let's just go ahead and take this from black people. Why? Well, because everybody takes from black people. And part of the reason they take from you is not just because they're sinister, sneaky, dirty, low-life capitalists. That's part of it. Sure, absolutely. But they also take things from black people because black people don't really necessarily defend themselves all the time. The reason they take things out of your community, they come to America, they set up shops in your community, and they make money from your community. They take from your community. They don't get anything back. Part of the reason they do that is because you've been trained to be polite. You've been trained to politely allow people to come in and financially exploit you and extort you and violate you, and you don't really take a stand on that. Now look, I'm going to tell you, I don't necessarily like the way capitalism operates. I think that Eurocentric thinking can be problematic in a number of ways. But one thing you got to give white guys credit for, not all of them, but the ones that have the most money, is they will fight to defend their stuff. Apple will sue you for damn near anything, any violation of any copyright, any patent at all. You take their stuff, you're going to be in court. If you look at the history of aviation, when airplanes were invented, they were in court constantly defending their patents, constantly fighting for copyrights, constantly to preserve their legacy. They were constantly doing that. Now I don't like necessarily doing all that. I don't like being in court and all that else. It takes so long. It drags things out. It's very expensive. But one thing I can say is that I suspect that Ben Crump probably would not have taken this case if he did not think he had a chance to win. And I think that this family is going to get a couple dollars because they had the guts to actually challenge the theft of this song. And I listen to the song, and I have to agree with Crump. I hear what he's saying. The songs are connected. And even Ed Sheeran, someone said his name should be pronounced Sheeran or Sheeran. Again, he's Baby Elvis. That's what we're going to call him, Baby Elvis. Baby Elvis performed the two songs together, which was his way of acknowledging that he took this from black people. So why is this a good place to start when it comes to powernomics? Well, part of the, given the powernomics is the mixture between the words power and economics, right? Powerful economics, having economic power, it's kind of a mixture of sort of knowing where money is and acquiring money, but it also has that word power in there. Power means that you have the strength to defend what you have. You see, I hear people talk all the time and they say, we could build another Black Wall Street, but every time we build something, they come and they steal it or they take it down. So what? That's life. Welcome to the real world. Maybe because black people are sort of seen as a subordinate class, you're used to fighting the economic game at the little children's table, right? Where you're not necessarily involved in the big boy, big girl conversations. But once you start really getting into those big boy, big girl lanes where you're talking about fighting for millions or billions of dollars, oh, they gonna come take it. Having wealth will make you a target. So as we're building all this in the community, we must prepare to defend what you have. You must prepare your family. When you build your family legacy, you must be prepared to defend it. You must be smart enough. You can't sit around and wait for somebody to take it from you and then think that somehow you're going to get it back because you complained about it. Again, that's when you're at the little children's table. But when you're at the big boy, big girl table, there will be a fight typically, and you got to be ready for that fight. The whole country's filled with war. That's kind of just part of life. Okay. So anyway, that was my thought for today in terms of getting us started on this conversation. So let's get ready to fight. Let's read some more Powernomics. We're on page 197. You can get a copy of this book by going to powernomics.com. All of Dr. Claude Anderson's books are available to you if you want them. Here's a $99 library pack that is absolutely awesome. And also I've been encouraging anybody who has extra income to buy extra copies and give them away to people in your family. My goal is never to, I don't want to teach any students. I only teach teachers. Or if you are a student, being a student is temporary, but I want you to, but what is being a teacher is permanent. So I want you to permanently become a teacher, which means that I want you to spread messages that you value so that others can learn them. All right. We agree? All right. Okay. So here we go. Political action step number 3, use vertical integration in politics like the old political ward system to deliver services and direct benefits to Black communities. A form of vertical integration must be applied to politics in order to position Black Americans to gain access to higher socioeconomic ground. Vertical integration will give Black Americans a vertical structure or channel that allows that will allow public office holders to deliver constituency services directly to Black voters. The old ward type system is needed. Early in history, the word ward meant someone who was to be protected. To protect voters, cities were divided into wards that public officials could easily identify and guard. The ward system was a political division of a city, as well as a political tool and patronage system. To a large degree, the ward system became unpopular and was terminated in northeastern urban cities in the early 1940s in response to European ethnic groups who used ward politics and political machinery to empower themselves. Both gave the ethnic groups effective mechanisms for maintaining group unity, political spoils, lines of communication, voter involvement, and a device to enforce political accountability. Black America has never had such a political system or machinery. Now, when I was in Houston this week, I spent time in a place that where my friend Willie D from the Ghetto Boys made famous, called the Fifth Ward, and I saw people coming up to Willie while we were eating lunch, and they were saying, Willie D, Fifth Ward, representing Fifth Ward. Right. And I said, man, this is so great that you really put Fifth Ward on the map. And I really think it's great that you represented the people so well in your music. So we were driving back to the airport listening to some old Ghetto Boy songs. Like that's what we old guys do, I guess. And I said, it's funny. I noticed in your music how there was an evolution, how you went into very political spaces. Like you made songs like "The World Is a Ghetto," and you start talking about these political issues. I could see you as a leader elevating the thinking of this group, which I thought was a powerful use of hip hop as a tool for politics, right? So I think that ultimately this is interesting because Public Enemy understood that too. Public Enemy also understood that that hip hop was influential. They understood that hip hop made Black people think. Hip hop got Black people to do things. So they would come out with songs like "Fight the Power," things like that. Well, then there were also people who understood the power of hip hop in a negative way. They understood how it can influence Black kids to use drugs. It can influence them to kill each other. It can influence them to hate their women. It can influence them to become consumers and waste their money, right? So then that's when hip hop took that turn to the left. But going back to this idea of a ward, what other thought that comes to mind is that politics is supposed to be to your benefit. When you are the voter in politics, you're supposed to be the beneficiary of your vote. The problem is that you're not the beneficiary of the voting process. You are a commodity in the political process. The reason that you're a commodity is because you're bought and sold. You're a commodity because the real transaction occurs between the politician and the big donors, the people that give them the money to run. So the big donor comes along and says, I'm going to give you a bunch of money so you can go and create a bunch of videos doing the electric slide and the Cupid shuffle to get Black people to vote for you. And then once they all show up and vote for you, and once we bought enough Negroes to get us across the finish line, then we're going to come back and ask you to do favors for us. People don't do favors for the commodity. They do favors for the what's the word, you might call it the trustor or the beneficiary, whichever term you want to use the estate planning terminology. They give the benefits to the people that pay the bills. And this is where capitalism ends up commodifying black folks. This is where books like Black Labor, White Wealth are so important to understand. This is where powernomics is so important to understand, because effectively, my challenge with politics is not that I believe you shouldn't vote. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't vote if you're not going to get the benefits of your vote. If you're not convinced that you're not going to get that you're going to get benefits from your vote, then no, you should not vote, because you have to make it clear my vote is for me. So in B1 the movie, one of the clips that we put out today, I put this on my Instagram, the real Boyce Watkins. We talk about why it's such a threat when black people start saying, no, I'm putting me first. When black people say, I'm not here to serve you, I'm here to serve myself. Well, the reason it's a threat is because people are saying, wait a minute, you're not here to serve yourself, you're here to serve me. You're not here to take care of yourself. Who takes care of black people? You're here to take care of me. That's your job. That's your service. And we're raised to think that way. Even the fact that you're raised to believe that your number one job in life is to grow up and work for a white guy. That's what black kids grow up thinking. My job is to work really hard, get a good job working for some white kid. So there's a white baby somewhere in another hospital that your black baby's born in, and the black baby's being raised to believe at some point I got to go work for that white baby, right? The white baby's not thinking I'm going to go work for black people when I grow up. I don't think there's ever been a white person on the planet that was raised to believe that they were supposed to go work for black people. Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. There's not a single example that you can point to where any white person, Asian person, Mexican, Arab, anybody was ever born and raised and taught, like, hey, one day if you treat black people nice, maybe one day a black man will let you work for him. It does not occur, right? So ultimately, this commodification is something that you have to approach, not just by understanding it. That's step one, and also not by just being upset about it. That might be step two, but you also have to accept your own role in that process. What are you committing? People treat you like, my wife tells me this all the time in relationships and all that, because she's a relationship therapist. You teach people how to treat you. You teach them what your worth is. You teach them how valuable you are. I can even think of times where a lady showed up, and she meets a guy, and he's expected to treat her like a queen, but then she does something to degrade herself, and then he's like, oh, you're not a queen. You're like, I should treat you like a stripper, right? And next thing you know, the treatment adjusts based on the expectation, right? So ultimately, if we show up in a way that says we demand to be treated this way, we expect certain things, and we stop caring what people say in response to that, then you'll find that your treatment will be better. When you drive a hard bargain, when you negotiate properly, you tend to extract more benefits than when you just kind of give blanket loyalty for no reason. One rule of negotiation that's really important that black people should really embrace is that you never, ever, 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 ever give something just unconditionally without asking for something in return. You're setting a very bad precedent when you do that. All right, got it? Okay. Somebody said I was talking fast. That's because I get excited about stuff. I just talk fast. That's why sometimes I'll repeat myself so I don't end up going too far too fast at one time. But I can't help it. It's just how I talk. I apologize. I'll try to slow down. All right. To a large degree, the war. Okay, let's go back. All right. Immigrants use the ward system to look after their most important needs. In exchange for voting in blocks, they received a variety of services, such as assistance with citizenship papers and patronage in public sector jobs, such as policemen, firemen, clerks, and other public jobs. The ward ethnic political machinery in such places as Boston's Italian community provided food, fuel, and rent payments, and helped immigrants in times of emergencies, all in return for unified ethnic votes. Ward politics were vehicles that aided European immigrants in direct exchange for their political loyalties. Immigrants were able to direct exchange for their political loyalties. Immigrants were able to build institutions, savings and loan associations, social clubs, youth clubs, summer camps, sports associations, as well as corner grocery stores and other businesses that provided jobs to the community. The old ward machinery served as aggressive affirmative action for European immigrants for more than a century. We can use it today as a model to politically empower blacks. Blacks should demand that black politicians and black public servants have direct control over political resources for political patronage. Blacks can build a political ward system just as the ethnic immigrants built them a guard for their families, communities, and race, and as mechanisms to hold their elected officials accountable. Okay, very interesting. Like the old ethnic wards, black wards can be built around one, maintaining family and community ties, two, pooling and sharing resources, three, exercising competitive self-interest in the marketplace, and four, mutual obligation between black people. Ward systems can create vertical links between public office holders and black voters for the delivery of services. So that's what Dr. Anderson says in Powernomics on page 198. You can get a copy of his book at powernomics.com. Okay, political action step number 4. Support a national network of black research institutes to collect data, advocate for, and craft group-based how-to-win political strategies. So we need our own think tanks. White people have plenty of think tanks. We should have think tanks too. The Harvest Institute is a think tank that's run by Dr. Claude Anderson. When you buy copies of his books, you're supporting the Harvest Institute, okay? It is imperative that Black America have scholars and institutions to conduct ethnographic research for the purpose of political and economic empowerment. Black America has played competitive politics with one arm tied behind its back. Black America has not had the benefit of a national intellectual structure that researches and analyzes issues and crafts proactive how-to strategies for Black Americans. This majority society has well over 1,200 public policy institutes or think tanks, as well as thousands of university-based research institutes whose sole purpose is to bring concentrated brain power to bear on every conceivable issue. These majority policy institutes have a collective budget of more than $500 million and approximately 6,000 employees. There's probably more than $1 billion by now, I would imagine. Also, in case you ever wonder why or what we do with the Black Business School, that's what we're doing. That's why we have things like we have things like Black therapists that come in that literally help us understand the psychology of wealth and things like that, which is our Black Financial Therapy Department. It's the first ever Black Financial Therapy Department of all time, because we realize that the therapy and the psychology must be integrated with the wealth training. You can't just talk about money and wealth without talking about mindset. You can't talk about getting rich or building wealth without talking about why you're poor in the first place, and not just why you're poor, but also why you stay poor or how you went from middle class to poor, right? That happens a lot too. A lot of your kids are in that category where they're going to start off middle class. You're going to do everything for them, provide them with all these resources, and next thing you know, they're going to end up in poverty. And even though America has become a tougher place to build wealth, the country certainly is not fair. There are still people that are able to pull this off and on a mass scale. And it's a matter of how you play by the rules. And a big part of that starts with understanding the targets of the brainwashing that occurs and knowing how to avoid that. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's see here. These public policy institutes vary ideologically from ultra-right conservative to middle of the road to ultra-liberalism. The nation needs and deserves research and viewpoints that are from a Black perspective of life. Black people need research organizations that will develop policy and blueprints to help Black America achieve self-sufficiency and competitiveness. This is the mission of the Harvest Institute. Didn't I just say the Harvest Institute? The Harvest Institute, a research organization based in Washington, D.C., and founded by the author. Most Black community-based organizations that could provide political and economic research do not have the financial resource or the ideological commitment. The financial supporters of these institutions would not approve using charitable resources to socially engineer Black people out of their protracted dilemma. The burden falls upon Black Americans to save themselves. So in order for you to have a community that is empowered and liberated and everything else, you have to think a certain way. A lot of institutions exist that recruit Black scholars. And these Black scholars can't build much for the Black community because they're distracted. They're too busy pleasing their white benefactors. They're too busy pleasing the white institution that gave them that job. I spent a lot of time in academia. I've had my PhD for 20 years. I know a lot of scholars, a lot of professors, and a lot of them see the same issues. They're capable of solving these problems. But the problem is that when they're sitting there trying to feed their families and they have to go to work 40 hours a week, they don't have the time to go focus on the Black community when all their income is coming from, say, Duke University or the University of Connecticut. They have to fulfill the University of Connecticut's agenda, not a Black agenda. And a lot of that links back to the lack of independent wealth in the community, also the lack of institution building in the community in terms of institutions that are supported. So I'll give you an example. When I was at Syracuse, the work that I did in the Black community wasn't really respected. The work I did in the Black community, I was specifically told that this would not count toward your promotion. This is not going to count toward anything. I was doing work that was getting all kinds of praise and applause in the Black community. All kinds of people were calling me, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan and Cornel West. All these people were reaching out to me because they saw this great work being done by this guy at Syracuse University. They did not care. And you know what? I don't blame them. Why? Well, because they did not hire me to work for my own people. They hired me to work for their people. They didn't hire me to pursue my agenda or the Black agenda. They hired me to pursue the Syracuse University agenda. So even though it was frustrating, even though I was mad, I get it. I completely get it. The only thing that allowed me to become an asset to the Black community, and I'd like to say that we've done a good job with this. In the last 15 years, we have spread Black wealth to at least 10 million people around the planet. Like, that's now the thing. Everybody's talking about it now. Go back 12 years ago, wasn't nobody talking about it like this. Now rappers are rapping about it. Everybody's just assuming Black wealth is the thing to do. I think we played a big part of this, right? Why? Well, because now instead of dedicating all my time to my university and then giving Black people my spare time, I dedicate all my time to solving the Black wealth problem and the Black wealth issue. I'm a scholar that wakes up thinking about this every single day, obsessing about this, dreaming about this, making up whole entire financial models about this, right? So imagine if you had, instead of one Boyce Watkins and a few other people, what if you had 100,000 of us, or maybe just 50,000 of us, or 20,000 of us, all doing the same thing, getting up every day and just sitting around thinking, how do we make the Black community wealthier? How do we get our kids ready? How do we fix our families? How do we solve? Imagine if all the Black scientists were working on diseases that related to Black people. Imagine if all the Black attorneys were working on lawsuits related to the Black community. All the best social workers were solving social problems in the Black community instead of whoever they work for, right? Every Black person who has a skill was applying that skill to the Black community. That would be powerful. That would be very powerful. So in order for that to occur, either one of two things has to occur. One of two things has to occur. One of two things has to occur. Either one, you must have institutions that are developed and funded that can afford to pay for these people's attention, right? They have to be able to, if you want a Black doctor to sit around and think about Black issues all day, well, you got to pay him like a doctor somehow. Well, that means the institution has to be funded. Well, where's the money going to come from? Well, if the mindset of the community is, well, we don't fund our own institutions, white people do that. We're going to go to Coca-Cola and Pepsi and the government and white people and let them pay the bills because we're not ready to sit at the grown folks table. We know we want freedom, but we know freedom isn't free, but we're hoping somebody else will pay the tab. Like, we want to hold a conference on Black health issues, and it's really important, but we need that conference to be sponsored by Humana and Pfizer and Merck. Right? So if Humana, Pfizer, and Merck sponsor a conference on Black health, you know what they're going to do. They're going to be up there talking about, well, to get your health right, everybody got to get the jab, right? That's what they're going to do. Why wouldn't they? Because the person who pays the bills makes the rules. So if you want to make the rules, you got to pay the bills. So when you see an institute like the Harvest Institute, you got to write a check for that. Now I can tell you that the Black Business School has given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Harvest Institute. That's why that's one thing about Dr. Claude Anderson and I closer together. He said, thank you for being so really genuinely supportive and following through. He said, because I get all these calls from celebrities who will be in a magazine bragging about how they're a billionaire or a multimillionaire and will tell me how great Powernomics is, but won't write one check to support the institution. But yet you will show up in a Bugatti, you will show up wearing Louis Vuitton, you will show up in your mansion with your white butler and all the got 18 cars in your driveway. You done spent $2 million on your kid's birthday party, but yet when it's time to write a check for a Black institute that is gonna do right for the community, you don't have money for that. You wait for white people to write that check. Well, when white people write the damn check, they're gonna make the rules. That's a fact, and I don't blame them one bit. Number two, the other thing that has to occur, it's one or the other, or both. Both is even better, but it's one or the other. So either A, we have to have institutions that are supported by the community, right? That your HBCUs die because nobody donates. Everybody's like, oh, well, white people are going to pay for our schools. That's why your HBCUs are garbage in terms of financial stability. They're not garbage in terms of intellect and the experience, and they're wonderful and all that. But y'all know what HBCUs are. Most of them are in a financial hole. Okay, so then number two, the other thing that would have to occur or could occur that could be an alternative is that the individuals that really want to do this work have to embrace entrepreneurship and wealth building as a core family value. Why is that important? Well, because a person who has enough money is able to vibrate at a higher frequency than somebody who is struggling to get that dollar. There's something that in psychology that you may have heard of. How many of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Have any of y'all heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? If not, I'm going to put it on the screen because I want you to process this. This is really interesting stuff. Okay, so let me see if I can find a good picture of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, Maslow's. All right, here we go. Came right up. All right, so let me see if I can find a good image, and I'm gonna put this on the screen. I'm gonna explain this quickly in terms, and this will explain why a lot of your educated Black people sell out and can't do anything for the community. All right, so let's see here. Let me. Here we go. Boom. That's a good graph. All right. So let me show you Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this is the difference between powernomics and survivalnomics. Okay. Now, some of you that are listening, you can't see it, but I'll describe it to you. All right. So look at this. Look at this chart right here on the right. Right here on the right. This is Maslow's hierarchy. Maslow's hierarchy is a pyramid that describes your ability to live your best life or to actualize or to become the person that you're meant to be, to truly become truly empowered. Think of it as like a powernomics temple. And your goal in the powernomics temple is to get to the top of the temple. Okay, so when you first start off with Maslow's hierarchy, this forms at the very bottom. These are your basic needs that everyone must have. You cannot move up the pyramid unless you fulfill the basic needs. Basic needs are food, water, warmth, rest, physiological needs. I need food. I need a place to stay. I need to be warm, whatever. I need water so I don't die of thirst, right? If you, no matter what you're doing in this world, no matter how important your work may be, if you ain't got enough water and enough food, then you're going to stop doing whatever you're doing so you can focus on getting water and food. Give me a yes if you follow what I'm saying. This is important. The next level of the hierarchy is safety. This is security, right? This is where you say, okay, now I got plenty of food, plenty of water and shelter and all that. Now I just want to be safe. Now I need to make sure I'm secure. So if you, so here's the thing. If you don't have enough food and water, you'll give up your safety to go get food and water, right? You'll go out in a dangerous neighborhood to go get food for your family if everybody's starving. But but once you got everything you need, you say, okay, we got all the food we need. Let's just stay right here. Let's just be safe. Okay, that's the next level. The third level is belongingness and love. That's intimate relationships and friends, right? So once you have safety and security and food and water, then you start saying, let me go make some friends. Let me connect with some people. Let me find me a spouse. Let me just find some connection to other human beings. They say those things are really important. So now here's the thing. If you don't have safety or food or water, then you'll give up your friendship. Like you'll say, well, you know what? Screw you. I like the fact that you're my friend, but you took my food and I don't have any more food. Now I'm gonna have to fight you, right? So basically your need for food, water, and safety and security is more important. It's more of a basic need than your need to make friends. If you're not comfortable and your family ain't eating, you don't care about making friends until you know your family's eating and you're okay. Now, the next level after that is the need for esteem. This is prestige and feeling accomplished. You know, I have a BA or a BS degree, or I won a certain award, or I have some sort of status that makes me an important person, right? Now, everybody likes me. Everybody's looking up to me, right? That's what a lot of people want, especially young people, young guys. That's why I say a pastor should never be running a church when he's never accomplished anything, because he's probably going to be a bad pastor. Why? Well, because his purpose isn't to serve God. His purpose is to serve himself. His purpose isn't a higher power. His purpose is to gain power, right? So he gets in there and he says, wow, look at me. I'm 28 years old. I'm the pastor of the church. I've got all the money. I've got all the power. I've got all these women that like me. Those pastors get caught up in scandals. The people that are best to lead a church tend to be people that have already had all that have already had, all the status, and, maybe they used to be a senator or a surgeon, or they're a millionaire, and they say, I really want to do something important. That's because they've reached level 5. Level 5 is what they call self-actualization. That is the top of the pyramid. That is when you have achieved your full potential. That is when you are doing things that are creative and wonderful. You're committed to something bigger than yourself. You're not about the ego no more. You're not about trying to get the esteem anymore. You're not about trying to get people to like you no more. You're not worried about food and water and safety because you got all that. You have millions of dollars in the bank or whatever it is that you've got going on. You're financially okay. And then you're like, let me just do something that's meaningful. Right. So for Black people, part of the reason, my theory is that the part of the reason that your institutions don't really get supported, in my opinion, is because we're still operating on this basic level. White folks keep us scared to death because we are constantly worried about maintaining food, water, safety, and security. right? And then you go into belongingness, right? If your self-esteem is not properly developed, if you don't know who you are, then you need belongingness and esteem. You need the white person, the label. You need that company to give you that job with the fancy title, so you start feeling like, look, mama, I made it. I am somebody, right? That's one of the things they hold over our head, because when you get out of line, first thing they do is they take these things away from you. They take away this esteem. They take away this belongingness. You get blackballed. You get kicked out. But what you really want, the people that are able to really support their institutions and really make their community strong, are people that have gotten to this highest level. They're not doing it for the ego. They're not doing it because they're trying to make friends. You're not negotiating with the Democrats to be their friend. You're saying, I don't care if you're my friend, and I already love myself. What I really need is I need you to do right for my people, because this is what we deserve. And you're already good in these other areas too. So if you want more Black scholars and thinkers and educators and therapists and social workers and engineers and everybody spending more time fighting on behalf of the Black community, they're at the very least going to have to get past level 1 and level 2. They're going to have to and really level 3 and 4 to some extent. They're going to have to get past level 1 and level 2, meaning that you're going to have to breed more children that are financially secure, so they're not running around begging for a couple of nickels and degrading themselves in the process. You can't have somebody who is trapped with no inheritance, no money, no side hustles, no ability to start a business, no savings in the bank, and, who is living paycheck to paycheck. That person can't go fight the big battles because they ain't even won the little one. You haven't even won the basic. How are you going to play powernomics? How are you going to acquire power when you don't even have power over your own domain? You haven't even controlled your own territory. How are you going to fight for somebody else's territory? So you can't play powernomics because you're too busy playing struggle-nomics. Struggle-nomics is down here. Powernomics tends to be played up here. It's played by people typically, and this is what we can do this. We can breed our kids this way. It's played by people that say, look, I got enough food and water and money. I'm safe and secure. I have people that love me. I love myself, so I don't need y'all to love me. I don't need your prestige. To hell with your awards. F your awards. You can throw them in the garbage, because I'm not looking for titles, awards, none of that. And now I'm ready to self-actualize. I'm ready to commit myself to the bigger battle of really elevating my people, really putting my people in a better condition. But this is a psychological exercise. That's why we called in the army of therapists to help us really figure out what that looks like psychologically, so we can overcome those deficiencies that exist economically and psychologically that are keeping us from being able to reach that higher level of existence. Okay. And so ultimately, that's my theory. I think that that in order for you to have these institutes and think tanks that Dr. Anderson's talking about, you either have to have institutions that people will fund, or you must have people that have skill, who are financially secure enough to detach from the other institution that they were controlled by and actually focus on the work that actually matters. I was not able to be an effective asset to the Black community until I figured out how to get out of Syracuse and be financially independent. That's why I can do analysis, I can make comments, and I don't have to worry about being canceled. I'm not scared of being fired. When I said something about obesity and health related issues, and I had a speaking engagement canceled, it was a $10,000 speaking engagement. It's fine. I have investments and money saved. So I didn't care. It's like, whatever. And I don't need the prestige. I see no prestige in speaking for that organization anyway. I've already got enough prestige that comes from my people. So why do I need you to even acknowledge me? I don't want to be mainstream ever. I care nothing about that. Okay. So let's move on. I want to make that point because I think it's really important, because we got to support our institutions. Freedom is not free. White folks support their institution. Jewish people have entire hospitals. A lot of you in your city have a Jewish hospital, and they'll let anybody come to that hospital, but it is a Jewish hospital. Catholics have their hospitals, right? So we need our own hospitals and schools and everything else, right? So let's keep going. So that's why the Black Business School exists. That's what we're doing. This is ours. We built this. All right. So in developing the Black Political Power Toolkit, Black America needs a national network of public policy institutes that want to work toward a powernomics vision to form a network. Each participating organization would develop or contribute a particular area of expertise. They would work together to do research, lobby, and distribute information to Black America. The network should be totally committed to increasing wealth, income, and power resources in Black America. Components of this network can structure themselves as voluntary associations, civic groups, educational, or a number of other type of organizations to maximize their effect in the communities. The local think tanks should affiliate with Black colleges, business organizations, and churches that also subscribe to the Powernomics vision. Together and separately, they can function as a vital part of a national network, using newsletters, the internet, press releases, conferences, seminars, and public hearings to educate, inform, and influence Black voters and Black public officials. The principal goals of the Black American National Intellectual Network are to, one, provide research to Black officials so they don't walk around acting like they don't understand what the problems are. I hate that. It drives me crazy. They did that deliberately during Obama's presidency, where they would say, well, Black people don't have a Black agenda. And we were like, no, we have a Black agenda. We wrote it down. Well, Black people, we would help them, but they don't have an agenda. No, we haven't. Hey, we have an agenda over here. They weren't listening. They were deliberately clogging their ears. That's what they do. They sort of act like there's so much confusion that they end up using that to water down your movement, right? So effectively, you can't let them do that. The other goals are to help the 20 most populated Black communities to develop plans to rebuild their communities and to practice group politics and economics. Bring about economic and political self-sufficiency and competitiveness. Apply the research principles and strategies of the Powernomics National Plan and to develop prescriptive solutions for Black America. Establish new forms of institutional leadership. Link knowledge to power by bringing together scholars, strategists, and researchers. Establish an electronic information network within Black America. Develop public policies and programs to aggregate capital and stimulate vertically integrated Black-owned enterprises within Black communities. Promote group accountability, unity, and optimism. Political action step number 5. Create a daily national print and electronic news talk show network that offers Black political perspectives on domestic and international events. The economic aspects of this action step were explained in Chapter 6. However, the political purpose is important to isolate and discuss. The saying that information is power sounds good. However, information in itself is not power. Information represents the potential for power. Just like the power in a light bulb is realized only when it is connected to a circuit, information lacks power until it is connected into a network and used by its owner. If we as Black Americans are serious about acquiring power, we must have a national network for information and news. We need to communicate information, strategies, and ideas that connect the group and establish a potential for unity and consistency of message. A Black communications network would increase group power, especially when the information being disseminated is linked successfully within the group's visions and goals. Some of that's already happening. And it's having an effect. When I've got like over 1 million subscribers on different YouTube channels, and Tariq Nasheed has quite a few. I don't know if he's got 1 million, but he's got quite a few. You have other platforms out there that are big platforms that are independent, that are consistent in terms of talking about things like reparations. You notice politicians are now starting to talk about reparations. They can't just keep ignoring it, because what they're being frustrated by, and this is why the folks on MSNBC get a little bit frustrated, is they get frustrated because they understand that their corporate controlled media does not reach the Black community the way grassroots media does. So the fact that we specifically target Black folks and we're not trying to sort of cater to everybody at one time, we're specifically focused on this one community. They're quiet. They're slowly but surely learning that there are certain people in the community that have become kind of like gatekeepers to some extent. That if you don't come with something authentic and real, that they're not going to they're going to oppose what you're trying to do, and it frustrates the hell out of them. And I think it's a good thing, though. I think it's a good thing. I want you to pay attention and notice how their behavior and their words are kind of shifting. They're now starting to talk about reparations and tangibles and things like that. The reparations discussion is now bigger than it's ever been. There was a professor, Sandy Darity from Duke University, that went on Dr. Phil and said Black people straight up are owed $14.3 trillion or something like that. I thought that was great in terms of making that a mainstream conversation. And I think it has to be a conversation that we're not apologizing for. We're owed this money. The government writes big checks for whatever they want, whatever they believe in, whatever they're trying to do. They can write a big check to us. So let's keep going. Moving on. Let's see. Black America must be able to communicate with itself, because we cannot play group politics or group economics without the capacity to communicate and share information. Mainstream media does not provide information that focuses on what is helpful to Blacks. Just as we must break up the white monopolies over wealth and business, we must also break up white monopolies on research and information. Blacks must develop both print and electronic media in order to practice group politics effectively. Few Black newspapers are viable today, and most of them are now dependent upon and controlled by white politicians and their business allies. Did anybody see this week where Tucker Carlson got removed from Fox News and Don Lemon got fired on the same day? Anybody see that? So when Tucker was removed, let me tell you, it's interesting because Tucker Carlson was probably the most digestible figure on Fox, the one that I respected the most out of all of them. I don't really have a lot of respect for Laura Ingraham or Sean Hannity. I mean, they just do whatever. Whereas Tucker really drilled into some stuff in a meaningful way sometimes. I mean, sometimes he was a little bit off, but there were times where Tucker nailed it. And one thing Tucker did that may have gotten him fired was Tucker called out the relationship between big pharmaceutical companies and their money and how media outlets disseminate their message, the types of guests that they have on, the types of commentary they do. So he claims that the reason that this whole conversation about the virus kind of went in just one direction, and there was very little diversity of perspective in mainstream media, is because the pharmaceutical companies were receiving big money, so they were writing big checks to defend that revenue. They would write big checks to media to say, let's shut down that other side of the conversation. And I think that's what got him fired, even from Fox. So even on the right, this was an issue. You know, it would be an issue on the left. Now what I want you to understand too is that if they, someone says, let's see, Mr. Jan says, if that Tucker got a job offer immediately afterward. Yeah, well, you know what? I don't think Tucker needs a job. Tucker's probably worth $50 million anyway. I think Tucker is going to be fine. Tucker could literally create a network called the Tucker Carlson Network, and I think he would do very well with that. So Tucker's beyond needing a job. I mean, he works because he wants to. That man's probably got a ton of money because he carried Fox. He carried, their stock price dropped. Their market value of the Fox Corporation dropped by $1 billion when they fired Tucker Carlson. It immediately dropped by $1 billion. So, there's a price to pay. But anyway, with that said, the interesting thing here is if they're doing that to Fox News, if Fox News is being controlled by corporate media or corporations in that way, what do you think they're doing to black people who don't even have any money? Right? What do you think that they're doing to black media outlets, in terms of black radio stations and stuff like that are struggling to get advertisers? So that's why the conversation in the black community went in a certain way when it came to that virus. And it was frustrating for people because you had grassroots media that was a little bit different, that was a little more diverse in terms of perspective. I didn't necessarily feel that anybody had to make a certain decision. I just said, well, let's look at all the facts. Let's look at the information. If a doctor says he's from Harvard, I'm not going to ignore that doctor just because his opinion is unpopular. I want to know what the Harvard doctor has to say about the jab, or the Stanford educated scholar, or Dr. Christina Parks, who has a PhD in molecular biology from the University of Michigan. I didn't understand why those conversations could be taken off the table, how a person that was perfectly valid, certified by you, is suddenly written off as a quack and a crazy person because they're bringing up information that is worthy of verification to determine whether or not this was truly safe. So that showed you a little bit about how dangerous conversations can get when you get into situations where your capitalism has been allowed to control your politics. I think that whole conversation during the pandemic was all about money. Everything was about the money. So just be really careful about that because the money kind of takes us away from the truth sometimes, and that's what I think happened. Here. Now, someone asked me, "What about Don Lemon?" I think with Don, I think Don got fired because he was accused of being mean to those white women or something. I think they probably felt like he was a prick and they wanted to get rid of him anyway. Don has never been a guy that I felt like was a really good friend to the black community, but he wasn't necessarily a terrible person. He was terrible to me. He never really liked me that much. He did a whole segment on the Tom Joyner Morning Show about me, and he didn't like me because I didn't like Lee Daniels and his show Empire. I feel like that debauchery is not healthy for black people, and I did a commentary about it. So I think Don was protecting his friend. But overall, I think Don was committed as a journalist to what he did. I was surprised that they let him go. And what I'm really wondering is whether it was a coincidence that they were fired on the same day. I just thought that was so strange that they did it on the same day. And I think it's because these media outlets are connected and coordinated in some way. And I told you, I might have mentioned to you all that back when I was on Fox and CNN a lot. I remember that there was a time where I kind of got blackballed by both networks at the same time, which tells me somebody had a conversation with somebody and said, okay, we gotta stop this because this is causing a problem. So when you see that coordinated behavior, it kind of reminds you, that there are systems sort of operating in the background that we don't know about. And I'm not even bitter about it at all. In fact, sometimes when somebody breaks your plate, it forces you to build something better anyway. So at that point, I realized In 2008, when I was banned from the networks or whatever, I realized, okay, you know, the best way for me to really talk to my people is to do the work to build a platform that's mine, that's owned by us. So I started doing little things like building my email list and all that. And I was able to, I reached fewer people, but I reached the right people. And I was able to reach them in the right way. So rather than going on CNN and having some stupid conversation that was 3 minutes long, I was able to actually have an hour-long conversation with the right people, you know, a lot of you who don't even watch CNN, and really talk about the issues and dig into the nuances. I like this so much better. This is so much more liberating. So I literally want to thank them for any institution that's ever like pushed me away or pushed me out. I have nothing against them. I'm so grateful that they did that, because sometimes if things make you too comfortable, if white supremacy makes you too comfortable, then you're not necessarily going to have the motivation to go build on your own. That's why a lot of black celebrities can't build. It's because it's comfortable sort of being pacified and placated. The people that are going to be the builders for the next generation are the people who are kind of the outcasts, right? And that's those are the ones I really like talking to, because you can build a nation. You have so much power because you got the power of freedom. You've got something they don't have. They have the money, sure. You got the freedom. Freedom is more powerful than money. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so let's see here. Blacks must develop both print and electronic media in order to practice group politics effectively. Few black newspapers are viable today, and most of them are now dependent upon and controlled by white politicians and their business allies. They are used as propaganda tools. Remember, this is what I was just talking about, for the established power class. Scattered and financially weak, they are forced to sell out to the highest bidder. To empower black weeklies, they should be linked nationally together to function as one newspaper. The first step toward building a national print media network is to create a national black newspaper whose foundation is already in place in the scattered independent black weeklies. How would it be done? The remaining 50 or so black weeklies can be fashioned into one national black weekly at first, then once established, expanded to a daily paper patterned after USA Today. USA Today assembles content, and many of the stories appeared first in other newspapers around the nation. Since many of the stories appeared in local newspapers, they have therefore already been approved for print. A consortium of black papers could achieve similar kinds of economies of scale. So what I'm going to do is jump forward on this, because I think that we've kind of hit an age where print media is very expensive and hard to maintain. I've run into people that say, "Hey, Doc, I want to create a magazine for black folks and stuff like that," and I get it and I understand it. But one of the tricks I find to really getting a lot done is that you have to be smarter than the people before you in terms of how you create things. You can't just copy what white folks are doing and think that's going to work, because white people have more to work with. They have more resources. They have more money, in particular. And so when I was building the network I have, I literally was like, how do I do what an HBCU does, but at 1/1000th or 1/500th of the cost? Well, I realized, okay, wait a minute, you don't need all these big buildings and all these administrators and all this massive multi-million-dollar overhead. You use technology. If I could sit with you in a Zoom meeting, and then every now and then we get together at a hotel and do live events or live trainings, I can actually educate you better that way than I can if we all have to meet on the same campus. It's less costly for you and it's less costly for me. So everybody wins, right? So in the Black Business School, we're able to charge a price that is 1/100th, 1/1000th of what you paid in college, but give you like 5 times the value for a couple of reasons. One, because it's high level stuff that most universities don't even teach. We have models that aren't even in textbooks. But number two, it's specifically designed to solve your specific problem as a black person. The University of Iowa can't do that. A lot of HBCUs can't do that. They're not allowed to really do that. They're there to create employees to go work for white people. So by appealing to the family, we realize that's where the power really is. If we can help all of us, and again, it starts with mindset. That's why we have the first ever Black Financial Therapy Department. If we're able to convince you that your family can be and should be the strongest institution that you are associated with, then we can do amazing things with that. If you really internalize the idea that your family is a corporation, your last name is as big as any LLC that you'll ever have, and you pour into it in the same way, and you respect it as much as you respect that job or that other man's corporation, then that's a major game changer, because now you've got something that's extremely important in terms of competing in a capitalist society. You've got a base. You've got a capitalist base or a capital base that you can lean on that can help you get things done, help you solve. You got a place you can go for resources, information, wealth, capital, whatever you need. And so the best families I've seen, I'm telling you, this is again, I don't think any university is really talking about this. The strongest families I've seen are the ones where they realize that the public school system is only an educational facility that you go to if the family is broken, or if the family can't handle the educational needs of the child. Well, why can't they handle the educational needs of the child? Oh, that's right, because somebody told mom and daddy that they're supposed to go out and spend their day at the corporation. So the schools are basically a place to babysit your kids while you go and you serve as a worker. But strong families are able to handle their educational needs internally through either themselves, or outsourcing, or using the internet, or through some homeschooling network. And then two, these families also handle their economic needs within the family, and that's by embracing things like entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship uh, works best when you're trying to sort of say, okay, the only reason I go out of my house every day and leave my family to work is because I need the money, and they got the money, and I don't know how to create something that will give me money. But if you can do that on your own, then why do you need to even leave your space? Why do you have to leave your safe space every day? You don't at that point. You know, you're getting your education at home. You're getting you got your income. You got the resources that you need. This changes your whole life. You don't have to go to work every day in foreign territory, dealing with people that you don't like, or people that don't like you, that make you feel bad every day. That just changes so much in terms of mental health, physical health, etc. So really, the family is the core. Like really, so really rebuilding the family and understanding what it means to build the right family, pour into the family in the right way, mend the family when things do go wrong, and protect that institution. That's more important than, like, working really hard for your boss. Right? There's no way on earth you could tell me that going to work for that white guy is more important than me working for my family and working for my last name and building the institution that God gave me. And then you build a little bit of wealth, and over time you see the next generation has more than the previous generation, and then at that point, you things like going to work every day is kind of like optional. That's something you do if you want to go to a foreign territory. All right, so let me keep going. Let me keep reading here. All right, so let's jump forward. There are more than 300 full-time and part-time Spanish language radio stations, and I'm reading at the bottom of page 201 in Powernomics. Dr. Claude Anderson's website is powernomics.com. There are more than 300 full-time and part-time Spanish language radio stations, and soon to be three television networks. Hispanic media is part of an international effort to build a politically and economically powerful Hispanic nation inside of American society. Media ownership contributes to that plan by using Spanish language to promote culture, issues, and to mark territory. So I want you to take the word Spanish and put the word black in there, so you can imagine what we would do with this kind of thing, right? Promote Spanish language, promote the culture, issues to mark territory. So instead of black language, maybe, or excuse me, Spanish language, we're talking about black language, meaning how we connect with each other, how we talk to each other. B1 promote the culture. That's B1 culture. Issues, B1 issues, mark our territory, kind of say this is our space. If you want to come into the space, then there's a price for that. Two, providing electronic channel of information for Hispanics. So we get the best and smartest and best and brightest people onto these networks so they're able to talk to the masses. That's very important. Empowering speakers of Spanish over English. Okay, so this is more of a Spanish thing. It's not so much a black thing. But he says Black America lacks an approved culture and language system. Yet Black-owned radio and television should serve the same function as Spanish language radio, because Blacks are a scattered people who are out of touch with themselves. But Blacks will soon lose the only national cable television channel owned by and programmed to Blacks. On November 4, 2000, the owner of BET announced the sale to Viacom, a majority white corporation. The internet is now also a powerful way to communicate among individuals and groups of people. While not a substitute for mass media, Blacks must influence policy and devise ways to own and control as much of the new technology as possible. Even more importantly, Blacks must now not allow non-Blacks who own these new systems to aggregate Black consumers and exploit and profit from them. So he wrote this over 20 years ago, this part about the internet. He wrote this about the year 2000. This is the update on the book Powernomics. What this makes me think about is if you talk about BET, the evolution of BET, you've seen kind of the damage that has occurred when you have people that have a profit motive shaping Black culture. The impact on the culture is secondary to making money. So whatever makes money is what they're going to do. So it's just like selling uh, unhealthy food. If you're running a restaurant and all you care about is selling people food that tastes good, food that they will eat, then you might as well put crack cocaine in the food, right? Because that's gonna you have Cracky's restaurant, you're gonna always have people coming back, and you're gonna make as much money as possible. So only a person who has a stake in that community, in the health of that community, or the health of the people coming in, is gonna actually care about that double bottom line, that triple bottom line. So to some extent, Viacom running BET is no different from somebody selling you food without caring about your health. They do not care about the health of the culture. They do not care about how many kids are being raised to be bank robbers and dope dealers and mass murderers and everything else. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is making money. And then what is really unfortunate is that black people who are also obsessed with the money, who are low on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, operating on that lower frequency. Remember, on Maslow's hierarchy, when you're on the lower rungs, you're playing strugglenomics. So black people that tend to go to a BET and will promote any nonsense no matter what. I know people that worked at BET. I know people that went there and loved it. I know people that went there and hated it and quit. Right? Well, the people that went there and loved it are the people that were on that lower vibrational frequency typically. They were the ones who were struggling to make money. They were the ones who needed some sort of validation and esteem. They were the ones who would still get excited because they got a chance to meet their favorite rapper, no matter what he was rapping about, right? But the people who hated it, the people who walked away, were the people who were operating on the higher vibration, who were operating on the higher level of Maslow's hierarchy. They didn't need they didn't care if a rapper was famous if he was out promoting something toxic and poisonous. They weren't playing strugglenomics financially. They had enough money where they said, you know, I could go make money doing something else, or I've got money invested somewhere else, right? So imagine a world, and I want you to imagine this. Imagine what the world would look like if every black person, this is not possible, this is not going to occur because I can't get every black person to listen, but I can get the B1 people to listen, so I'm talking to intelligent black people. But imagine if every single black person in this country had enough money that they didn't actually have to work for anybody. Imagine if you were already for free just because making $10,000 a month. That means any job, anything that requires work from you that pays you less than $10,000 a month is not of interest to you. How would that change your behavior? Think about how that would change your decision making. Think about it on a basic microscopic day to day level. If you woke up in the morning and you did not need money, what would you do different? Would you do exactly what you did this morning, or would you do something else? What do you think? And I want you to think about that because this is the world that I think we can build. This is the world I think you can build for your children. I think that if you and I'm trying to share as many tools as possible to help you do that. Things like the $5 a day investing plan, and in the Black Business School we talk about all the financial stuff, stock markets, options, real estate, all that stuff, right? But and the thing is that you can do all the reason you can do all these things is that because you have time, right? If you give yourself time, like I let you guys know, I'm not really worried so much about what we're doing in this decade. I'm looking at the year 2070, because by 2070 you can build anything you want. You could by the year 2070, a person could walk from New York to California probably 20 or 30, 40 times, 60 times. I don't know, right? So you can do a lot of things between now and then. You can build a lot of stuff between now and then. So the key is to understand how to use that time and that patience to consistently pour into something that reflects the model of the world that you want to see. So if you want to see a world where your three children never have to work for anybody, well, start building that world. Very easy. Again, go to boycewatkins.com. That $5 a day plan is right there. It's free. You can have it. And if you want it in book form, there's an ebook on Amazon. If you want to get it in book form, whatever you want to do. Invest $35 a week per child. Do more if you have more, though. Set it on autopilot and invest in S&P 500 stocks, or you can pick VOO or SPY, VOO or SPY. And like, for example, today you saw companies like Microsoft do really well. Microsoft did well, Google did well, Facebook shot up. A lot of these are stocks that I've talked to you guys about before. There was one more, Chipotle shot up. These are all stocks that I've mentioned to you all before, right? My family owns these assets. We're owners in Chipotle and Facebook and all these companies, right? So go VOO or SPY, consistently invest that $35 a week per child. Do $50 a week, 60, 70, 100 if you can afford it. And do not sell for anything. That's what rich people do. They don't sell their stuff willy-nilly, right? So just do not sell. Let it grow. In 25 years, game over. Game changer. Your child's got six figures. liquid in the bank. They don't have to work for anybody. At that point, your daughter who went to college and then law school, or and then maybe let's say she because she has plenty of money, she goes to medical school, right? So she also owns real estate and everything else. Now she can take all that brain power and spend all her time every day doing nothing but helping the people that she really wants to help. And again, that's also important for you because she's going to be a big gun. Her brain is like a weapon. So you're going to teach her how to point the gun. You're going to teach her where she has the greatest bang for her buck. You teach her to love herself. You teach her where she comes from. You teach her why building the Black community is the most important, the most noble, the most meaningful, the most relevant thing you could be doing with your life. Anything else you're doing is pretty much worthless. Again, that's where we do our brainwashing. You got to. I'm sorry. I believe in brainwashing your kids. Because it's to their benefit, unless it's something terrible. You don't want to brainwash them in a negative way. But I think it's okay to teach them that being Black is the coolest, most amazing thing in the world, and that the most noble thing they can do is get in there and get in the fight and get in the battle for the community. At that point, if you have a million kids like that, then it's game over. Our community wins. We don't just achieve equality, we're dominating at that point. At that point, we got haters. People are mad at us because these kids are going to eventually get their freedom, and then they're going to go start taking other people's territory because they're going to show up at the table smarter, more prepared, more capitalized, all these things that they need in order to claw back some of the things that they deserve. So, but you got to prepare. You got to prepare for battle. Sun Tzu in The Art of War. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu said that battles are won before they begin. Battles are won before they begin. If you ever played sports, you played football or basketball, your coach probably told you championships are won in the locker room. They're not won on the field, they're won in the locker room. So we're in the locker room right now. We're making the battle plans. You got to implement this because you're the one who's talking to that kid every day. I can't talk to them every day unless you bring them here. You can bring them here, but also you're so I got to convince you, hopefully, that this is worthwhile and that you'll go ahead and really apply that energy because it's going to benefit you in ways you can't even imagine. What's also going to happen too, that's really fascinating, is you're going to see them take what you're doing. Whatever we do, whatever extraordinary thing we do in this generation, I think it's going to be seen as mediocre by our kids. Like whatever we do, they're going to look at what we did, and that's going to be ground zero. That's the baseline. And then what they're going to do is they're going to take it to a level that we can't even imagine. Right? We're going to take the rocket ship to the moon. They're going to take it to Mars, or we'll take it to Mars. They're going to take it out of the solar system. That's just what the nature of children, right? That's what they're supposed to do, and it's going to be beautiful to watch, and you're going to love it. I guarantee it. All right, the rest of the community might be burning down, but your family will be prospering if you apply some of these ideas. Okay, so let's keep going here. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit more. Political action step number 6. This is from Powernomics, page 202. Powernomics.com is Dr. Claude Anderson's website. I hope you will support him. It says Black Americans must lock all candidates for public office and current elected officials into quid pro quo contracts with Black communities. Ever since America's founding, public debates have constituted a major part of the election process. Debates are used as settings for candidates to present themselves and their ideas to the public. They give the public a chance to get to know the candidates and seek their support for issues and projects. However, most debates, from the Lincoln versus Douglas debates of the 1850s to local modern-day town hall debates, avoid any serious discussion of Black issues. For Black America to join the political discourse and to wield political power, we must require all political candidates for high office to participate in Black-hosted national and local debates, town hall meetings, and other public forums, and to respond to questions about their commitment to Black empowerment issues. This practice would do several things. First, it would make Black America a part of the political process in a meaningful way. Second, it would bring respect to Black people and their voting power. Third, it would allow Blacks to regain some control over politics within individual Black neighborhoods. Fourth, Black America would have a chance to interact with candidates on key issues and extract irrevocable agreements between the candidates and Black America. And last, the publicized national debates would stop candidates for public office from taking Black Americans for granted by saying one thing to Blacks, then saying something totally different to another group or community about the same issue. The biggest benefit of national debates and forums is that they would expose and undermine Blacks who sell influence as Black leaders for personal gain and reward. Candidates who have nothing to offer Blacks will not likely come into Black communities. And if they don't come into our communities and participate in the public events, then we will know that they don't deserve our vote. Every candidate that appears before the Black Public Forum should present their agenda in terms of what they propose to do specifically and solely for Black Americans, not minorities, not women, and not everybody. What they propose to do should be taken as a contractual commitment. All candidates, whether running for national or local office, should be asked the following questions. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? All right. Do you recognize and understand the nature of the race problem in America? Will you take steps to secure long overdue reparations for Black Americans? What other wealth, income, and business producing programs or public policies do you intend to create to advance Black entrepreneurship? What specific amount of money do you pledge to allocate into Black communities during your term in office? Specific amount of money, specific. How many millionaires that have the Powernomics vision do you propose to make by the midterm of your office? Any candidate or office holder who does not provide acceptable answers to these or similar questions should not get Black votes. After the election, Blacks should ask newly elected office holders to return to the public forum and report on their progress in delivering the promised wealth resources. Those who follow through on their promises deserve continued support. Those who do not should either be subjected to voter recalls or other Black voter backlashes. In our effort to correct the wealth and resource disparities between the races, we must accept only those activities that successfully move socioeconomic resources into the Black community. Black voters must never support any candidate who does not promise and deliver equitable financial resources into Black communities. What do y'all think? There you go. There you have it from the master, Dr. Claude Anderson. And he is the master. I am simply a messenger of a greater man. And Dr. Anderson did not ask me to do any of this, by the way. He did not ask me to scream his name from every rooftop. I do it because that's the respectful thing to do. I think that as a Black community, it is very important that we promote and we develop and we choose our own heroes. I think that one of the signs that the public school system is not adequate for Black people is that there are people like Dr. Anderson, great Black men and women like him, that walk around here every day that your kids will never learn about in school. But they'll teach them about mediocre Negroes every single day of the week. Every day of the week. So is it their fault that this happens? Sure it is. Of course, it's their decision. But really, it's not so much them to blame, because that's what they're going to do. It's not in their incentive to promote your heroes. It's your job. So we must internalize that empowerment. We must let go of any semblance of the victimhood and sitting around waiting for things to happen. Make it happen right now. Start with your family. Start with your family. Don't, and then if you got your family down, then maybe you can work on the kids down the street. But don't worry about the big picture and what everybody's doing and all this other stuff. That's not important. Start with your family. You do that, then your legacy lives. Your circle wins. You win, and it becomes an easier game at that point. So that's it for tonight. I guess I'll see you guys next week. And don't forget, also, number one, that trailer for our new film, the Boyce Watkins Films. We just made a new movie, a new joint that's coming out with Rick Mathis. He's the director, and it's called B1 the Movie. It is awesome, awesome, awesome. You can go to my Instagram page, The Real Boyce Watkins, if you want to see the trailer. Or it's not an official trailer, but it's a snippet. Number two, my new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can find a copy on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, you can find it. Also, if you're looking for something interesting to do, if you go to BoyceWatkins.com, we do have a real estate training in the Black Business School for those who want to get started in real estate. You can get a certificate when you're done. We also have a training on how to make money without working. So there's a lot of resources on my website that will help you achieve your goal economically. So I'm going to go. I got to get on a flight early tomorrow morning with my wife. And God bless you. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.